When we come together in circle, we automatically begin to create resonance and a unified field between all members of that circle. In other words, we sync up, and we call that syncing up entrainment. It's a very natural phenomenon that occurs in many species, where nervous systems begin to attune to a core synced up frequency. Now, this is not some special superpower. This is evolution, and in fact, something that we need to survive. If you look back, not in the last 10,000 years, but you go back much further, before our pre-agricultural modern civilization, and we look at our more hunter-gatherer ancestors, you'll notice as the history or the evidence presents itself is that we were more tribally connected. And what that basically means is that we lived in small pods of around 30, 40, 50, up to 100 people. So we were in connection with an expanded, extended family that we would travel around with and we would rely on for all of our physical, emotional needs. So, for example, if a member of the tribe went out, met a saber-toothed tiger, got scared, it would come back and it would in fact engage in community regulation, not just self-regulation, deep breathing, isolated in his own hut. No, he would probably meet with his tribe, they would hold him, or they would shake, they would dance, they would move, they would chant, they would sing, they would tone. They would basically move energy collectively as a single organism rather than an individual being left to sort it out by themselves. And so the first thing that I want to share is that there's nothing supernatural about transpersonal energy. It's built in and wired at a very deep level for each of us to be connected to tribe. Now, I first encountered this very potent, powerful group energy back in 2006 when I started facilitating my own circles. Before then, I was doing more seminars or front of the room style trainings. But at that time in 2006, I went through an epiphany. I had my own awakening in sorts. And I started to open up my retreats to become more emergent. Instead of giving clear, structured processes and taking people through a manual or a journey or a syllabus, I just opened up the circle and moved with what came alive. It was very intuitive at that time. And something really fascinating happened. This was a 5-day retreat. And in the first couple of days, people started to take space and ask for attention to be working on very personal items or relational items with their partner, and it seemed like business as normal. And then something happened. As we had different people take space, share, move, open, process, deepen, the group got more and more connected. And the deeper individuals went with their shadow work, and they went to really claim all their parts and to really dig deep. And we did even some quite extravagant psychodrama, trauma work. I mean, it was amazing what was happening, but it was all very personal or relational. And then something happened on day 3 where the resonance and the entrainment of the group became so close. People were so vulnerably open. They were so connected now to each other's process. They felt like family and like lost soul friends that they hadn't seen in millennia or a lifetime. And so the group got really tight and really connected. And then something really fascinating happened. In this circle, when the space opened up for the next person to take space, it wasn't anymore an individual saying, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what I'm feeling. Instead, it was as if we surrendered collectively as a group to something that wanted to come through the group rather than through us individually, because we have a need to meet something in our life because we've got a problem. That was now put to one side, and suddenly we were now vessels. We were now empty, hollow bones ready to be of service into a larger field of possibility and awareness. And people started to speak through parts of a process that was now moving collectively. Imagine now each and every single person in the circle was a different organ of one body, and that body was taking space through the different parts. And so we all started to have a different part to play in these processes that were beginning to unfold. Still highly embodied, still deeply touching. They still had a personal quality to them. So it was important to take the consciousness that we developed to still translate what we were seeing happening collectively in the group and translating that back into our own lives. This was a very important place of anchoring back our awareness. But it became a point where it almost felt, and this sounds a little scary to some maybe, like we're puppets on a string, that we're being pulled by energies that are moving collectively. And it was incredible. It was like a temple opened up. It was like, this is what I've always dreamed or known is possible when we come together in community and in connection. And something about this was sacred. It was special. It was profound. And it was so intimate. And it was meeting a need so deep, I can't even describe it. It almost like it has no name, because that collective meeting point, that tribal community sense of we're going to share in this and we're going to surrender to the collective divine and to the emergent, entrained space that happens between us, is something that I believe our ancestors many thousands of years ago, before the whole modern civilizational separation split in our culture, but while we were still deeply connected to nature and to each other, I think this was what they experienced. And so I inadvertently tapped into an ancient energy. So it wasn't like new, I didn't discover it. I just felt like, oh my God, through the trauma work, through the relational work, through the opening, through us being together and being in this field and amplified energy, something else is wanting to come through. And it almost felt like our ancestors wanted to come through and be part of the healing process. And not only did I sense that ancestors wanted to come through and be witness and be a part and of support, it felt like it could go the other way around. Like we could work with energies in the circle that was having a direct healing impact to the collective. In other words, we could be here doing work in a room, and I had this intuitive sense like this is touching others in the world. This is going out into the world. And of course, since then, research has shown through meditation research that there is a direct impact in the power of combined group thought, energy, meditation, and focus, and having that impact at a distance. So this shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you, but for me back then, this was like a wondrous, magical time of my life where I was like, I felt like I'd found gold, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like we can do our own healing work, we can transform our relationships, and we could return to this ancient energy that I believe our nervous systems crave. We want to regulate with a group. We want to harmonize. We want to come into connection in community, in a collective. And that's why in a lot of the hard IQ circle works that we do, there's a lot of group holding, connection, toning, time when we can just drop in together with touch. And that type of imprint of community regulation is so healing. It's almost like it's 10 times more potent than our self or co-regulation practice. It really is incredible. The more people went to dig deep into finding access to all their emotional energetic range, the more easy the whole group synced up and unity consciousness came through like an absolute power wave. And the moments and the times when that work wasn't done, when we didn't do our own inner work, when we didn't do our relational work, when we weren't taking responsibility, when we weren't learning the language or being really connected with ourselves, unity consciousness became almost like a show something that we were pretending to be in through meditation and stillness and trying to speak all the right words and do all the right actions. But the temple energy, the sacred unity as a feeling, as an embodied consciousness coursing through the field, wasn't there in the same way. And so what I've seen is that these really go hand in hand. We must do our personal work. We must do our relational interpersonal work. And that offers a perfect fertile ground for our collective transpersonal work. And then we can be used for something greater than just us. And we get into connection with something bigger than us, which I think is the meaning of life, really. It's like, I don't want to walk around as this independent individual that only can feel self. There is something happens when I transcend self and surrender into the fact that I am part of, I belong, I'm tribally connected to a larger family. And yes, we are moving towards the whole planet being that one family. And there is work to do. And all of us have a part to play in that if we're aware and capable and we feel the call to move in that direction. Now, the last thing I want to share here about this powerful group energy, this collective force, is that when we gather together as a group, everything becomes amplified when we're in resonance. So when we sync up and we have this entrainment, we feel more, we experience more. We also feel what's going on over in the other side of the room more. So we feel more of others, we feel more of self, we feel more of our strategies, we feel more of our defense, we feel more of our triggers. Everything expands. And as we begin to surrender into the group field, we start to tune into what I would call a group mind. And this is where circle wisdom or group intelligence can be accessed as a resource to go so much further in our intuition and our clarity and our intelligence and our awareness that we could ever access on our own. Imagine all of our higher selves all hooking up together and having a party, and then any one of us could tap that entire inner net, not the internet, but the inner net of all of us combined, and draw on information, wisdom, clarity, awareness about what's happening, what's going to happen. I have seen and encountered so much in these types of fields. Information that I shouldn't know or others shouldn't know. This precognition of being able to feel what's about to happen. And so as you can tell, this part of the work totally lights me up. And because it meets that multidimensional aspect of me, and it seems to draw to the work people that, of course, want to do their own work, feel the need and feel the absolute necessity for their own healing and for improving relationships. But they're also looking for a home, a place where this part is part of reality. Because a lot of people, like myself, I felt these energies when I was a young child, and I was always aware of what was possible. It was almost like an energy, but not a reality in the body. And so when I stumbled across this, I was like, oh my God, now I get to live what I've always known. And I get to now be in connection in a way that it's just not possible in our culture in many ways. And so Hard IQ offers this multiple dimensional aspect of connection, of self, of relationship, but also in connection with the collective field that is so rich. And it feels like connecting to source and connecting to the divine in everyone at the same time. It's a very hard thing to describe. You have to experience it in order to feel it. But to be able to tap that level of group intelligence, to have access to that resource, is simply like plugging yourself into a high-speed fiber internet connection rather than just being in that, that old dial-up connection that you couldn't even be on the phone at the same time. And it was so slow, it took an hour to just download a picture. But today, boom, a 4K movie can be on your phone or on your computer in 4 seconds. That